Hello, my name is Rusty Coones, and I have Jeff Sterling from ABATE with me right now. He's one of the board members that makes things happen. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Rusty. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm
Right
really
on.
great, man. I like that banner in the back too, by the way. But
Oh, that's
anyhow,
something.
look, you guys have been doing so much for so many years for the riding public, and people really don't know. The average person that rides, they see you guys and they just think, well, hey, it's ABATE, but they don't know what you're about. And you guys are out there representing us, and I'd really like you to be able to tell your story and let people know so they understand the sacrifice you guys are making, what's going on up at the Capitol. I mean, there's lobbyists up there working, and they're going after stuff like lane splitting laws, all kinds of stuff that's important to every one of us.
Oh, well, thank you for that lead in. And you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening over the years. And you just mentioned one, lane splitting. So that they were trying to outlaw it a few years back. And so Beta California actually has a lobbyist in Sacramento. And along with them, and kind of the odd thing with law enforcement, we actually have California Highway Patrol that supported us on that one.
Good.
So we're able to get that passed. And, we're the only state in the nation that has full on lane splitting or lane sharing. There's a couple of states that have come into it recently that have lane sharing. But California has been it for the longest time. I think Arizona and Utah has a limited amount of lane splitting.
What's the
But
difference between lane splitting in Arizona or Utah and California?
well, so there were times. I mean, there's actual times of days and traffic conditions that
Okay.
apply. Yeah,
Okay. And then also the speeds that you can pass people and all that.
yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So for the longest time here, it was a suggested speed. It wasn't a law. It was just a suggested speed by CHP. 10 to 50 miles an hour over the flow of traffic up
Right.
until like 60 miles an hour.
Right. And
So,
what is it now?
well, that's it. Well, what's our speed limit here? 65. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still the same. But as you know, down here in Southern California, traffic doesn't move very quick at all. So,
Yeah, no kidding. Where
yeah.
I
So,
live, it's horrendous. I'm up here by LAX, and the 405 is a nightmare. I mean, all these around here are a nightmare during rush hour and even an hour or two before and after.
oh, exactly. The weekends, there's no light time now on the road. And we've said this for years, to go for a ride in Southern California, you got to get out of Southern California.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
really.
along with the lane splitting bill, we were able to stop. They were doing motorcycle only checkpoints. And
Motorcycle only
they
checkpoints?
were doing motorcycle only checkpoints,
Okay.
and it was their way of it was all under the guise of safety, but it was just their way to run people's IDs and licenses and what have you. It turned out to be more of a detriment to the bikers, but ABATE was able to get in there and they stopped all funding to all national funding, federal funding to go to those kind of causes. And so they've got tried to get a little creative and do other things, but um, ABATE definitely stopped that back in its day.
Good. And are you familiar with any of the other ones that you guys have been working on? I know there was the anti-profiling and all that.
So ABATE California right now, we're part of a coalition, and
Yes.
as a matter of fact, we just had a rally up at the Capitol,
Right.
and it actually brought together something rather unique, and that was all the MROs in California, which is ABATE California, MMA, AMA, BRO, and then Bolt, and then all seven confederation of clubs all working together, moving in the same direction to get some legislation done. Now it's shifted. We've been a California anti-motorcycle profiling has been the focus, but with the ICE bans, with the internal combustion engine bans that are coming up, and all the fuel crackdowns, with the zero emission stuff, it's going to affect everybody. It's going
Yeah.
to affect every business, every family, and they're kind of forcing the electric vehicle um, agenda on everybody, and that doesn't sit right with us. So we expanded our coalition, and then the message. So yeah, while still anti-profiling, but we're looking to get on board and fight the zero emission laws that are coming down.
So if I understand right, you guys are getting all together, MMA, ABATE, and these other organizations, and you're actually talking to each other and organizing better, so that you work together.
Yes, and so not only that, which we've had a Monday call. There's been one for about the last 7 years, but in the last year, everybody just said, you know what? We don't care about who gets credit for it. We got a lot of work to do here in California. So let's just everyone kind of put their pride and their egos on the back burner and decided let's get this stuff done. Whatever we got to do, let's get it done. We're better working together than working apart. And so something interesting came up here lately. May 10th, word came out that CARB, California Air Resource Board, is coming after motorcycles now.
And how's that?
Well, they've got, so there's going to be a public hearing. As a matter of fact, I'm working on it this evening with our group. There's a public hearing set for June 7th, and it's just the initial stages. You know, they've got to get the public involved. So, but what they're doing is fielding questions from everybody. So we're just getting on the ground floor of it right now, but we've got some people in the coalition that have worked with and against CARB before. And so they know kind of how they work and kind of the best ways to approach it. But I'll tell you what, man, reading some of their requirements and their testing, they're quoting all European standard type testing, and just it's these almost algebra equations. And I think there's as much smoke as there is, actual numbers getting produced, because I think they mean to kind of confuse the issue a little bit.
With new motorcycles, CARB has always been real active going into motorcycle dealerships and making sure that everything's compliant on new motorcycles and manufacturers.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when you're a motorcycle manufacturer in California, you have to have CARB certs and EPA certs. But here you have to have the CARB. It's the only state with that, which is even more stringent than EPA. And then you also have to be a motorcycle manufacturer licensed with the DMV, which is my company, Illusion. We had to deal with that. So those guys in the past, they've only been dealing with the dealers and the manufacturers at that level. And what you're saying now is they're starting to step into the whole riding public with bikes that aren't brand new. This is after they've been on the road, sold, and ridden, correct?
Exactly, yeah. And so there's word even coming up, having these vapor lock type devices on the bikes, that if they're out of whack, and you've heard of limp mode, right? With the bikes, they go into limp mode now. CARB on one of their proposals actually listed something very similar to that if it goes out of whack, things are going to go into limp mode. And I just don't. There definitely aren't motorcycle riders that are making those decisions, because you get somebody that's not so experienced going down the freeway at 55, 70 or whatever, and their bike goes into limp mode, they're going to panic. They're going to freak out.
They could get ran over. That's people behind them. That's their biggest liability, is those people running over them from behind. In that case,
exactly. So
when you're splitting lanes, you're going forward at a little bit more speed than the traffic, and these guys are always cutting in front of you. So you got to worry about that. But when your bike dies, gets a flat, or runs out of gas in traffic flow, that's where they're going to get you from behind.
Oh, exactly. And you bring up kind of a segue into autonomous vehicles. There's been some Teslas out here that have caught bikers from behind. And so ABATE, along with the MRF, Motorcycle Riders Foundation, they're the motorcycle rights group that fights it on a federal level. And they've been trying to get it because the autonomous vehicles, nowhere in their certification are motorcycles. It's been brought to their attention, numerous times, but still to this day, I don't think any of the manufacturers have motorcycles in their certification process.
Wow. Have you worked with or seen Jim and James Lombardo, the lobbyists? They're working in Sacramento.
Oh yeah,
Pretty good, huh?
They are ABATE's lobbyist, and I'll tell you what, if there's anybody in that Capitol that they can point to that say motorcycle rights guys. It's the
Yeah.
Lombardos. Yes.
Yeah, they're interesting, man. I'm definitely talking to those guys.
Yeah. So
But,
they've got a good finger on the pulse of what's happening up there.
for a
And
long time.
yes, they have. Yes, they
Yeah.
have. And then we've got, and I think he might be on your to-do list as far as interviews. ABATE, we couldn't be happier. We've got a legislative director now, and he's a fellow writer, um, Bobby T. And you'll be talking with him, but he brings some
Yep.
experience and a focus, um, a fresh focus to it. That even it's different yet still focused on the same than Lombardo. So I think they complement each other very well.
Good. Good. Yeah, I'm talking to him. Yep. Yeah, we really need to make people aware of the efforts you guys are putting out there, and support ABATE. You know, and one of the good things about you guys' organizations is that you don't have to actively, if you support, you can just be a member, and you don't even have to actively be there. Let the guys do the work, but help support them, because you're spending money. It's expensive to go to Sacramento and do all these things that you're doing, you know?
Oh, yeah, it gets, you know what though? It's I'm passionate about it. So whatever I'm putting out, I know it's for a good cause, but I'll tell you what, we could definitely use some support. And you're exactly right. You don't have to be as engaged as some of us are. You don't have to be up in the Capitol talking to, the legislators, if you don't want to. We'd love it if you would, because we could use all the support we could get. And it's as simple as $40 a year. And if that's all you want to contribute, everything helps. Definitely
Right.
the financial side.
Right.
More
People
hands on
need,
deck would definitely be good though too.
yeah, people, the motorcycling public, whether they're riding sport bikes, Harley Davidson, whatever they're riding, they all got to understand that this is going to affect everybody.
Absolutely.
And really, one thing about rights, if you just don't protect your rights, they end up going away. You know, it's just the
Yeah,
way it is. These legislators, they just keep on piling it on, and it's not cool. You know what I mean? So, if people can support, it would be much appreciated. I'll tell you.
oh, absolutely, man. And that's one of my pet peeves is, well, if you don't know your rights, you can't stand up for them, first of all.
Yeah,
But if you're not fighting for them, because they are slowly just taking them away every bit they can. And what gets me about these internal combustion engine bans is we the people were politically shut down or politically distanced due to COVID, and it was one man's signature that put the ban in place. An
yeah,
executive order. And a lot of this stuff and studying up on this new carb, proposal for motorcycles, looking back at all their paperwork they have, all the resources that they have, and almost everything that I've gone through so far, 21 and 22, 2021, 2022, when the state was kind of shut down, they were getting very, very creative. And so people didn't have a choice. And I
man.
think that should piss more people off, I believe.
So,
Upset
how
them.
long have you been involved with ABATE?
Well, I've been a member of ABATE off and on for about the last 12, 15 years.
Okay.
And then more recently, I got involved. ABATE California was going through some changes. And then with COVID, and then traveling the country, I'm also part of a couple other national groups. And traveling the parts of the country, I wouldn't see ABATE California. ABATE of the Midwest, they were big, they're on fire. And so coming back and kind of looking at where things were at here, it was too important. And the odd thing was, as I'm kind of thinking about how to get some energy put into it,
Yeah.
I didn't know anything from an administration standpoint, as far as what ABATE was about. It didn't matter to me. I just knew that ABATE California needed to be in the mix, and it would take all the relief off the COCs and even doing the work for the independents out there. So out of a 1.2 million registered bikes in California, I would say the club world probably doesn't make up a tenth of that. Would you say? So all the independents out there, and we're representing everybody.
Yes.
So, anyways,
Right on. Well, tell me this. So you've been with ABATE for a number of years.
oh,
When did you first get into motorcycles?
So actually, I was about 12 years old, and like many other people I've heard from around the country, a Honda 50 out in the back
Yeah.
dirt lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a blue Honda 50, and then from there, my next door neighbor, who was he had sand rails and motocross bikes and stuff. Um, so they would go out to Dumont Dunes, and I put together this Frankenstein, this bastard of a bike, just to go out and ride in on dunes. It was like a TT frame, Kawasaki 175 motor. It was just everything, just to go out there and be able to ride out in the dunes.
Right.
And from there, it was an enduro built. And I'll tell you what. So growing up in Orange County in the late '60s and then early '70s, it was a much different place, and to be able to go out and ride through the canyons, even to ride the freeways and stuff, it wasn't near what it is today. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And they call it rush hour. It's just a sea of humanity. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so in 1977, there was a Champion Kawasaki dealership on Harbor Boulevard in Costa Mesa. And I walked in there at 16, and there was a LTD 750. And for me, it was sway back a little, it was my Harley back then.
Right. Right.
I love motorcycle riding so much that my first car was a LTD 750. It was a motorcycle.
Right on. That was in Costa Mesa down there, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and check it out. So back then, 16-year-old kid walks in the Champion Kawasaki, and I say, I like that bike. You want to take it for a test ride? I was like,
just hand you the keys, huh?
Yeah, down Harbor Boulevard, Victoria, Newport Boulevard. I was just jamming all over the place. And then I think a few years later, I was going for a Honda Interceptor, and I wanted to test ride it. And go, oh no, we don't do that stuff anymore. But so yeah, I was fortunate, but I was done. There was no cage, no car, no truck that I was interested in. It was just bikes.
Right on, man.
Yeah. So
you've been in an accident on the street?
Let me see.
Couple times.
Yeah, no, I've been in a couple, pretty gnarly ones too. I mean, how much do you want to know about it?
Just give me a good one.
Okay, so being one of the founders of the National Council of Clubs when that was founded, so we moved two meetings around. We have two meetings a year, and they move around. So this one particular summer, about 4 years ago, it was up in Tacoma, Washington. So the two guys that I normally travel with, they were working. So I said, I'm going to take off a couple of days early. I'll see you up in Tacoma. So I was heading off, and up on the 395 south of Bishop. It wasn't even a gust. I got blasted, and the winds had been pretty gnarly that day, but this wasn't even a gust. I just got blasted over. We were doing 85 going up 395, two lanes, and this is an area where it's got kind of a big median.
Were you riding side by side or single file?
No, I was solo. So
okay,
the SUV to my right, I'm in the fast lane or number one lane, and when it blew me over, I think she kind of came over because it moved her, and when I adjusted, I couldn't adjust hard enough, and my front tire caught her rear fender well. We were doing 85, and if you've been down, everything goes into slow motion. And so, but as I'm it went in slow motion. As I'm starting to tumble, I didn't even see my bike, but I'm trying to tuck. And in my head, though, I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to Tacoma, not going to make it. And I tumbled, and I know better than to put my hands down or to put your arms out. I know how that's where injuries happen. But somewhere in my head, and I was sliding at this point, and somewhere in my head, I said, stop, where I put my hands down. Yeah. I was still moving, man. So it took the skin off. But that was it. I got up, and there were cars coming down they were coming southbound, and these guys come running over. That was spectacular, man. That was outrageous. Oh, glad you're okay, but hey, and so, but I refused all medical attention. I knew, road rash, how to deal with that. And my bike, it was totaled. It was mangled. And, so I went home. 2 days later, I was on a plane. I flew up to Tacoma for the meeting. And
Wow.
And that was it. It just, yeah. So a little road rash. And the ironic thing is the day before I had received a flannel, Kevlar lined flannel. And when I was leaving that morning, my neighbor was out and he's ridden with me before. He said, what you got going? Told him, I said, check this out. New Kevlar lined flannel. I said, hope I don't have to try it out today.
And what kind of helmet were you wearing?
A what?
What kind of helmet were you wearing?
I don't think it'd be classified as a helmet because it was a little skid lid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've so that thing I've kind of tootsie rolled down the street with that on and just kind of tink tink. But that's a whole nother conversation, man. The helmet law, and so back when I first was riding, there was no helmet law, but I had one.
Me too. Yeah.
Just if I wanted to wear it, I would wear it. If I didn't want to wear it, I didn't have to wear it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think 91, wasn't it, when they came in with that?
Yeah. And so ABATE California, they were they were on it, and I think sometimes people still look at ABATE California because we've been around so long, and we have been the preeminent motorcycle rights organization in California. Oh, you guys are the helmet law guys, Well, yeah, that and many other things too.
Yeah. Well, look, man, I'm really thankful you guys are out there doing this for us. And, I'm glad we can get a little bit out there about it. I'd like to see more people aware of it and support you, if possible. That's a great thing. And my hat's off to you for it. Anything else you want to say before we close it out?
Well, just to reiterate kind of what you're saying, but first of all, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's been a while, man.
Yeah.
So abate.org, it's $40 a year. And I'll tell you what, we can use all hands on deck. There's some stuff coming up that we're even starting to reach out to automobile organizations like SEMA, because we figure the more people, the more we can get together and be a real formidable force in Sacramento. And as you know, if we were to ever, all the motorcycle riders were to ever become one voting block, we could put whoever we wanted in the office.
Yeah. And what's the contact? What's the best contact for people online?
ABATE, www.abate.org.
Okay, abate.org. All right, everybody.
They'll see. Yeah, then they'll see.
Throw some support out there for these guys.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, Rusty.
Really good talking to you, man. I'll talk to you in a while, Jeff. All right.
Okay, then. Take care. Thank you.
All right.